An old man and a kid, dressed in a high school uniform, are running through the forest. Suddenly, a stray arrow hits the old man in a vital spot, causing him to collapse. In his Nakama Tamini dying moments, he grabs the boy's hand and asks him to live his dream of having a castle, a country, and lots of women. Yoshiharu, the kid, asks him his name, and he responds that it's Kinoshita Tukichiru. Yoshiharu, whom I'll be referring to as Yoshi, remembers something and grabs the man, telling him his death could literally fuck up the whole history of Japan, like the Hiroshima incident. He tells him he's supposed to serve Nobunaga and unite Japan, and the dying old man manages to squeeze out some typical historical words that the head of the Nobunaga family is Oda Nobuna. He dies afterward, as he should. Yoshi then gets up and convinces himself that he must have fallen asleep while playing one of the games dedicated to Oda Nobunaga, and that he's currently in a dream. Homeboy gets booted out of his thoughts when some hot chicken on a white horse brushes him off the way as she continues to crash with a very obvious side character who looks like he was created in a Disney-verse. During their clash, the unattractive man breaks the chick's sword, so Yoshi has to rush in to talk some sense into him for attacking the pretty girl. The man looks at him pathetically and sends one of his henchmen to delete him. Out of options, Yoshi pulls out a smartphone and plays some music which sounds like hundreds of warriors are coming to back them up. This throws the men off, making them think he's a wizard until his bad luck kicks in and his phone dies. The men get pissed and are about to whoop his ass, but this time, actual reinforcements appear to back them up. Yoshi then finds out that the girl with him is the head of the Oda family, Oda Nobuna, instead of Oda Nobunaga. Crazy stuff. In the land, they're currently in the Sengoku era, where it has been decided that any firstborn child, regardless of gender, would become the head of the family. This explains why not only the head, but some other generals as well, are ladies, much contradictory to Yoshi's usual games. At Nobuna's castle, she interrogates Yoshi about the fun technology stunt he pulled earlier, and gets disappointed at the fact that he can't use it again. He tries to tell her he's from the future, but she's not having it. At the Imagawa castle, Imagawa Yoshimoto, the ruler, scolds her servant Matsudaira Motoyasu for failing to capture the Oda clan during the war earlier. A side character trying to steal the show then appears in their midst like Shadow, and reports about the kid who interfered in the battle earlier. Bro thinks he's mysterious. Later, Yoshi gets taken to a chamber to stay. As he tries to get comfortable, he suddenly gets kidnapped by a mysterious figure who takes him away from the building before letting him down to talk. Getting his senses together, he is disappointed to see a little girl before him. She introduces herself and tells him she has come to serve him in place of her master. He just sighs and accepts his reality, while getting determined to make Oda Nobuna the conqueror of Japan. Saito Dusan, the Count of Mino, a distant land, discusses with his subordinates how they believe a different clan called Yoshitatsu plans on attacking Oda. His subordinates suggest that they team up with Yoshitatsu and destroy Oda, but he thinks outside the box and suggests that they take the unexpected approach and befriend them first. At the Oda province, the executives have a meeting in which Yoshi just happens to be present. He decides to go off just to prove his point about being from the future, so he tells them what is about to happen, and the exact thing happens immediately. Nobuna and the other executives, who somehow happen to be girls, are impressed but still have doubts. On their way to a pre-planned meeting, Dusan and one of his female executives lay an ambush for them to delete Nobuna and gain their province. But Yoshi, who is about 450 years ahead, makes them take the necessary precautions, saving Nobuna's life. Getting to the meeting with the same Dusan, she bluntly tells him her intention to take over his province, catching him by surprise. She gives a Naruto-type convincing speech about how her dream somehow has the same interests as him, and that it'd only be possible if he lets her, but the old man ain't buying it. They're both about to resort to violence when Yoshi comes barging in. He convinces Dusan to hear him out and he gives him a chance. Yoshi lays down some statistically accurate facts about why he has to hand over his province to Nobuna, and this time, the old man cases in. He then prepares to throw a feast for the handing over. Early in the morning at Yoshi's chambers, his help, who is a little girl, prepares him a depressing meal that consists of only ukogi leaves and water. Katsui, Nobuna's minister, then walks in and tells Yoshi to come with her. While walking through the market in Owari province, where a new system has allowed people the right to trade freely, they run into Oda Kanjuro Nobukatsu, Nobuna's little brother. If Nobuna hadn't been born, he would have been the one to head the Oda clan. The brat runs his unfiltered mouth and disses Yoshi hard, calling him a monkey. Apparently that's what Yoshi has been called by the nobles and ministers ever since he arrived. He stands there like a champ, and takes the roasts. But he loses it when Nobukatsu calls his sister a fool. He lashes out at him for running his insolent mouth and immediately gets cautioned by Katsui. Bro doesn't listen, but instead, he presses on and asks what Nobukatsu's intentions for the clan are. The kid rants on and on about his dumb fantasies, and they all just make Yoshi look at him pathetically. Nobukatsu calls his sister a fool one more time and gets a knock on the head from Yoshi. Nobukatsu orders that his head get chopped off like a vegetable for laying hands on him. Back at the castle, Nobuna is in a tight spot because she knows that if she fails to offer Yoshi's head to her little brother, he will start a rebellion which will most likely not end well for both sides. Running out of options, one of the ministers comes to us with some sick-ass plan. She points out that the reason Nobukatsu can easily request Yoshi's head is because he's a mere foot soldier. If he were a general, Nobukatsu wouldn't have the right to request for his head. The issue that now lies is that for Yoshi to move from foot soldier to general in a single step, he's going to have to do something really huge to earn the title. Nobuna gives him an impossible mission to use 3,000 kon to bring in 8,000 koku worth of rice in a week. On the 7th, Nobuna visits Yoshi in his chambers and finds it empty. She asks why he hasn't acquired any rice yet, and if he blew away all the money on gambling. Yoshi tells her not to worry, and that he's cooking something up, but she's still worried. She then decides to test his intelligence and her knowledge of the world. She is impressed when she finds out that he not only agrees with her theories, but proves them to be true since he claims to be from the future. They both talk for a while, but the sun then sets and it's time to take action. Nobuna draws her sword and tells Yoshi it's time. Yoshi complies and tells her to go ahead, and this throws her off. She then gets determined not to let her personal feelings interfere with what she has to do, so she raises her sword and prepares to behead him. Suddenly, Yoshi's assistants barge in, urging her to stop as the rice is being brought. She finds out that instead of 8,000 koku, they got 30 Chowzaro's koku out of the 3,000 kon he was given. She is impressed and relieved that she didn't have to kill him. Katsui then comes barging in with news that Nobukatsu has rebelled and raised an army around their castle. Turns out that was their plan from the beginning. Nobuna gets furious and decides that they're going to have to defeat her brother and take over his jurisdiction by force, and Yoshi doesn't see it as a good idea. The time Oda Nobunaga decided on something like this in the game he used to play, he killed his younger brother, and from then on, became a killing beast. He comes up with a strategy that they can take over the province without having to take Nobukatsu's life. The plan works, and they're able to corner Nobukatsu into surrendering, but Nobuna still wants to kill him to set an example to others. Yoshi has to step in again, and he finally manages to convince her not to become as ruthless as the Oda Nobunaga he knows. Nobukatsu then changes his name and decides to start working for Nobuna for the rest of his life. Later that evening, Nobuna makes Yoshi swear a loyalty oath to her. Saito Dusan gets betrayed by the other provinces within his jurisdiction because they refuse to be handed over to Nobuna. The leader of the rebellion is no one other than Saito Yoshitatsu, his son. Later at the Oda province, Gomen, one of the little girls serving Yoshi, reports the incident about Yoshitatsu to Nobuna. She also reports that all the generals in the land of Mino are sidang with him, and that things are not looking good for Dusan. To top it up, if an estimate were to be made about how serious it is, I could liken it to when the Marine office placed a bounty on Goldie Roger's head. I'm one piece. That's how cooked he is. Nagahide, one of the generals, drops a bombshell that Dusan intends to die there, because if he forces his ops to bage his castle, Nobuna would be sure to send reinforcements, and that would mean that Imagawa Yoshimoto would be certain to attack the now empty Owari province. He plans to die before Nobuna acts. Nobuna then tells them not to send any reinforcements while trying to act tough, but Yoshi sees right through her act. He confronts her about it later and finds out that she's bottling up a lot of emotions because everyone she loves ends up dying. A few hours later, they get an unexpected visit from Asai Nagamasa, the head of the Asai clan, who claims to have come to remove the cause of Nobuna's suffering. He tells her he's aware of the predicament with Dao-san and that Oda cannot act alone. But with his help, they'll be able to unite and put an end to the battle swiftly to rescue him. His request sounds a little too good to be true, so Nobuna asks him his real intention. Nagamasa smiles and tells her he has come to make her his wife. This throws her completely off. She starts stuttering and Yoshi begins to act off too. She asks if he's in love with her and he responds that he isn't and that this is only going to be a political marriage. She suddenly gets pissed and somehow starts blaming Yoshi for not standing up for her. If a random person walked into that, they'd assume something was going on between Nobuna and Yoshi. Nobuna refuses the marriage immediately, despite the fact that Nagamasa made it clear that Dusan could die if she did. Nagamasa takes his leave afterward. Shortly after, Yoshi confronts him and makes a fuss about the whole incident. It's then he finds out that Nagamasa has come to take advantage of the fact that she's in need of help, so he can use her to carve up the province he's for him if he becomes her husband. Yoshi almost punches him in the face, but gets stopped by Inuchio, who points out that a simple wrong move like that could lead to a war between the two clans. Later in the evening, when Nagamasa comes back for his final answer, Nobuna almost accepts with tears in her eyes, but Yoshi comes barging in, yelling G that he'll never hand Nobuna over to him. This time around, the rest of the officials back him up on this, and Nagamasa is left with no other choice but to leave. Minutes later, Jubei, Dusan's general, arrives at the Oda province with some escorts as well as Dusan's daughter. She delivers a note which contains Dusan's last will. Now it's clear that he's really going to die. Nobuna panics and tries to send reinforcements, but Katsui stops her immediately by knocking her out. Yoshi asks why she did that, and she tells him there's no other option, because even the reinforcements are going to die. At this point, Yoshi's hero instincts kick in, and he decides he's going to rescue Dusan from the battlefront. Gomen, his servant, agrees to come with him on this mission. They get there, and Yoshi tries to convince Dikusan to come with him, but the old man starts to give him some long, boring G pep talk about dreams and hope. Luckily, he doesn't give in. He persists until he finally convinces the geezer to come with him. Nobuna wakes up and finds out that Yoshi is missing, so she understands the situation and starts to panic. Yoshi, Gomen, and Dosan manage to get to the borders of Owari, but his son still isn't giving up. Just when they've lost all hope, Nobuna arrives just in time with reinforcements and pushes their army back. She approaches Yoshi slowly afterward and slaps him for acting carelessly on his own. A report then reaches them that 25,000 Imagawa troops have invaded Owari. The Imagawa army's vanguard, led by Matsudaira Motoyasu, had surrounded Maribi Fortress with a force of 3,000 men. The other fortresses are under attack as well, and the total enemy force is believed to exceed 25,000 men. At their tent, Nobuna and the girls are kind of tensed, but Yoshi, on the other hand, is hyped up. Yoshi tells Nobuna she can definitely win, but as soon as he's about to say the plan, she shuts him up and tells him he's fired. Confused, he asks why, and she answers that it's because he ignored her orders and went ahead, on his own without her permission. She calls him selfish and tells him she doesn't want to hear anything from someone like him. Katsui tries to defend him that he only did that because he cares about her, but she shuts her up, telling her everyone could have died if they hadn't rushed up there with reinforcements. Yoshi gets sent back home, where he loses himself in thoughts about the things she said to him. Dusan, who has also been exempted from the battlefield, walks up to him and tells him not to blame himself too much because he also saved a lot of lives. Jiji-san locks in for some serious man-to-man talk, where he asks Yoshi if they can really defeat the Imagawa. Yoshi replies with confidence that they really can, because it was after this battle that Oda truly emerged as a conqueror. Dusan then asks him if he's alive in that future he's talking about. He scolds him for changing the future just to save Nobuna from suffering, and asks if it's still going to be possible for her to win in the current future. He then tells him not to think too much about the fact that Nobuna fired him and that she only did that to protect him, since everyone she lives with always ends up dying. Yoshi gets all emotional for a bit, but shakes it off as a real man should. No offense, Tanjiro and Midoriya. He responds that since he knows the history of the game, he was able to change the future, and that it was that same history that made him able to save him. He vouches to use the same history to help Nobuna win as he steps out. His two servants and a couple of villagers accompany him on his mission. Heading through the woods, they run into Nobukatsu, who volunteers to help. They find the Imagawa base and are about to return to headquarters to report it when they get interrupted by some ninjas whom the rest try to hold back while Yoshi escapes. He almost gets killed by a different ninja on his way, but uses his negotiation skills to fight for his life, so the ninja lets him leave. He arrives at Nobuna's chambers and she gets worried about his injuries, but he ignores that and tells her he has found Imagawa Yoshimoto's camp. He describes the situation of things and tells her to decide on what to do and that he'll follow her. Without wasting much time, they head toward the camp with the perfect strategy. It suddenly starts raining and Nobuna counts it as a sign from the gods, assuring them of their future victory. They charge into the camp, and to their advantage, a good number of their soldiers had gotten drunk or still hungover. While they easily whoop the asses of the Imagawa soldiers, Katsui makes her way to Yoshimoto's tent and is about to delete her, but gets interrupted by Yoshi, who stops her immediately. His own reason for not wanting G to kill her is that he claims he'll regret it for the rest of his life if they kill a hot girl like that. He then walks up to Yoshimoto and tells her to surrender because it would be a waste for a cute girl like her to die there. His game got her tripping, and she tries to hide her blush by telling him she'll only let him off the hook because he's also attractive. After attaining victory, the Oda province executives decide to throw a mini banquet together, while they throw a different one for the soldiers. Walking through the forest, the people of Oda province run into some strange piles of stones. Yoshi immediately remembers that he has seen something like that before in a different manga. They identify it as a trap that was devised by the brilliant strategist Zhuge Liang to lure people into the swamp and flood it with river water. Yoshi realizes that the stones are the ones keeping them trapped in the labyrinth, so he makes Gomen destroy them. Oda has been on a losing streak for a while now, and it's starting to get to Nobuna's head. She starts whining, and Dusen tells her the reason she can't win is that there's a genius strategist in Mino, who is at least 1,000,000,000,000 times smarter than morons like them. His name is Takanaka Hanbei, and Yoshi testifies that even in the game, Hanbei had 98 points on INT without any bonuses. They plan to kill him, but Yoshi tells them they're to try to win him over to their side instead. He tells Nobuna she needs to get all the top-ranked characters she can on her side, or she's gonna run out of good people later. Yoshitatsu and his generals have a discussion about how their land is safe because of the genius in their land, but he seeks to be more bothered about the fact that Hanbei never reveals himself. He asks if it could be possible that he dislikes him so much, unlike his father. At Oda province, Yoshi convinces Nobuna that he's the best person to try to bring in Hanbei, and she agrees to it. Later, he sets out with Katsui and Toshi to Hanbei's residence, and they're shocked that, from the looks of things, he's probably an Onmuji. Getting inside, they meet Nagamasa, who had also come to win Hanbei to his side so Mino could fall. The brat had also gone ahead to send out wedding invitations to all the counts about his single-handedly planned wedding with Nobuna, who turned him down. He believes that if he gives her Mino, she won't be able to refuse him and that the marriage is as good as done. It's a showdown to see who can win Hanbei over. Suddenly, someone appears like a ghost and introduces himself as Hanbei. They try negotiating ASAP, but Hanbei wants to have a little more fun, so he comes up with fame for them to engage in. Of course, a game where no one can win. After making them dance to his tune, he transforms into some kind of white fox and continues to make fun of them until Toshi gets pissed and knocks him out. They then find a super shy little girl in the closet who introduces herself as the real Takanaka Hanbei. She brings out a talisman and summons the annoying dude from earlier, who now introduces himself as Zenki, her double. He's the one who has been her voice for a while now since she's really shy and stuff. Yoshitatsu stoops as low as taking a hostage from Hanbei's men, and the only way to save him is to show up in person. Coincidentally, the hostage happens to be her uncle. Later that evening, Nagamasa meets up with Yoshi and tells him to let Andu, Hanbei's uncle, die, and that way she'd go on rage and attack the Inabayama castle to avenge him. Of course, Yoshi is against the whole idea. He's not the type of dude to hurt a girl. Little did he know that Chris Brown probably said something like that along the line, until that certain night. Hanbei decides to meet Yoshitatsu in person, and when she does, the old man keeps trying to intimidate her until Yoshi has to stand up for her. He tells him about Hanbei's genius strategy and sorts of roasts him while comparing him to his father. Yoshitatsu gets pissed and orders that they get killed, but Gomen comes just in time with a smokescreen which is supposed to make them all disappear mysteriously. Everything's going well until they realize that Yoshitatsu has held on to Hanbei. The geezer announces his intent to make the little kid his concubine so he can use her power to conquer Japan. Shout out to Diddy for taking the fall. Hanbei freaks out and uses her talismans to summon mythical creatures which easily take down the bad guys. She passes out afterward. Yoshi rushes to treat Hanbei, abandoning the castle he could just easily capture because he knows Nobuna wouldn't want to capture it this way. After Hanbei recovers, she tells Yoshi that if Nobuna is really that important to him, then he should keep her safe and hidden while he leads the Oda clan and conquers Japan himself. But Yoshi replies that he wants her to shine for herself, just like the moon in the night sky. Hanbei gets up and pledges her loyalty not to the Oda clan, but to him directly. The invasion of Mino solely depends on what happens at Tsunomata, so Nobuna and her people are determined to make this work. But then again, Yoshitatsu won't sit back and let it happen, so they decide that they have to build a fort, however they can. Doisab and her other generals tell her it'll be impossible to build a fort in Tsunomata, and Hanbei the strategist chips, in that it is only by doing the impossible that they can prove themselves worthy to rule over Mino, since whoever controls Tsunomata controls Mino. At Imagawa, Hanbei's defection has become well known, and the soldiers' morale is now really low. With Hanbei on Oda's side, they'll be sure to burn Mino to the ground, so the soldiers start thinking maybe Dusan made the right call to begin with. Report then gets to Yoshitatsu that Oda is attempting to construct a fortification in Tsunomata. He sees it as their advantage and sends his men to destroy them. Due to the pressure caused by Yoshitatsu's men, Katsui and her men are forced to retreat and abandon the fort. Yoshi tells Nobuna she can keep sending people out to the fort to get killed, and that she should just try to entrust him with the mission. She asks what his plan is, and he tells her something absolutely crazy: to build the fort in one night. That way, the ops won't be able to stop it. She hands him a gourd for his flag because he has officially become a real general now. She then orders him to come back alive. While Yoshi sets out with his crew to build the fort, Nobuna heads out with her armies to act as a decoy. Yoshitatsu finds out about Nobuna and sends out about 2,000 men along with his 2 generals to go and destroy them. Getting to the abandoned mine, they get ambushed by Yoshitatsu's generals, and they try to hold their ground against them. They then notice that Yoshitatsu himself is nowhere to be found, meaning they've just walked into an obvious trap. In a matter of seconds, everywhere starts exploding, and they all get trapped within the small town. It appears that Yoshitatsu had already laced the birders with oil and explosives just to destroy Nobuna, and he doesn't mind sacrificing his generals in the process. In his base, Yoshitatsu celebrates his victory by getting drunk, but his temporary moment of happiness gets interrupted by a soldier who tells him about the fort in Tsunomata. He immediately sends his soldiers to destroy it, but Yoshi has already anticipated the whole situation. He and his men use their riffles to annihilate a good number of the men while they wait for Nobuna. Eventually, they run out of ammo, and Yoshitatsu's men begin to break in. One even shoots at Yoshi, but Gomen uses herself as a meat shield and receives the shot in place. At this point, Nobuna has just broken out of the flame prison and is on her way to Tsunomata. By the time she gets there, it's already too late. Yoshitatsu's men had infiltrated the fort and destroyed it. When she's about to like it, she sees Yoshi's gourd and sees that it's not over yet, so she sends her men to change the tides of the battle, which they do. As expected, Gomen gets up and reveals she is wearing some kind of armor that stops the bullet from penetrating. Yoshitatsu gets captured, and at last, Mino becomes the territory of the Oda clan. Nobuna then renames the Inabayama castle as Gifu Castle, meaning she's devoting it to Dusen, her new stepfather. Instead of killing Yoshitatsu, she sets him free even though she knows he could still end up as a bigger threat in the future. Everyone is against it, but they just let her be since she's the princess. Nobuna whines about her plan to march on the capital under the Ashikaga's banner failing, and Yoshi replies that even if the ruling Ashikaga has been assassinated, there's still their brother, Yoshiaki. He tells her if she makes him the new ruler, she'll have plenty of excuses to march on the capital. The girls just stare at him, confused like how Shanks's crew stared at Luffy when he announced he was going to become the Pirate King in One Piece. They tell him Ashikaga Yoshiteru hasn't been assassinated, and that he had a junior sister and not a brother. They had a near-death experience but managed to escape and leave the continent. The girls tease him for spewing out nonsense with confidence like Naruto in a Chunin exam. Jubei comes up with the idea that since Imagawa, whom they have captured, carries the blood of the Ashikaga clan and has the right to succeed, they should match the capital with her as the new ruler. While they prepare to set out, Nagamasa comes visiting again. Bro is really desperate for an answer this time. He literally starts begging. Nobuna decides to mess with him a bit, so she mocks the confidence he had to announce the wedding she never agreed to. She then tells him she'll give him her little sister's hand in marriage. Between us, Nobuna doesn't have a little sister, only a brother. Let's see what they're cooking up. No diddy though. Yoshi asks Nobuna for the prettiest girl in the whole of Japan as a reward for his contributions, but she sends him a little girl instead. Drake probably wishes he was him RN. With Nagamasa on her side, Nobuna advanced into southern Umi, defeated Rokaku Jutei, and arrived outside the capital, Kyo. While Yoshi heads to Yamato Palace to meet Lady Himiko, he sees a group of bandits kidnapping a little girl, so he steps in and whoops their asses. At some distant spot, a group of obviously powerful people discuss how they need to find Lady Himiko to give them more advantages. They then send a dangerous-looking girl with purple hair named Danjo to scout for her. Nobuna and the rest are ready to mop up the Rokaku. Yoshi, on the other hand, Yoshi, Toshi, and the girl run into a European nun and a little girl in the midst of bandits. I swear, this anime and little girls. Anyway, the men are about to pounce on the hot nun for perverted purposes, but the little girl Yoshi rescued orders them to stop. They get pissed and try to teach her a lesson, but Toshi doesn't give them an opening. Danjo watches the whole time from a distance. She then smirks and leaves. The nun introduces herself as Louise Froid, and the prideful kid with her introduces herself as Bonten Maru. Louise claims to have come all the way from Portugal to meet with Lady Himiko so they can find a way to put an end to the war. Yoshi, who may really just be trying to hit, tells her not to give up and that it's going to happen. Nobuna takes over the Kanonji castle in a peaceful way, and it upsets Asakura Yoshikage, the ruler of Echizin, so he decides to withdraw his men and set fire to Kyo while the rest of his forces join in later on. He seems to have some sick cards up his sleeves. Later, the girl Yoshi rescued tells him she knows the people in that particular jurisdiction of Kyoto are suffering, but she just wants to come out and see it for herself. Suddenly, some glowing butterflies appear, and Yoshi and Toshii pass out immediately. Danjo then reveals herself to the young girl and asks her to come with her. The girl tells her not to hurt her friends and that she'll return on her own, so Danjo leaves immediately. After they wake up, Gomen joins them shortly, and they take the girl to the shrine. It is at that moment that it occurs to Yoshi that the girl might be Lady Himiko. Kyo falls under the jurisdiction of the Oda clan. There seems to be an issue under Nobuna's jurisdiction, as the land of Konoe says they won't accept Imagawa Yoshimoto's succession unless they are paid 120,000 kan. The free trade city of Sakai is a rare and valued neutral ground in the Sengoku era and a golden city that amassed great wealth through trade with Asia and the European nations. The city is ruled by Igushu, a group of 36 merchants, and the one who leads that group is a man named Imani Soikyu. Soikyu gives Nobuna and Yoshi a warm welcome, and then they proceed to talk about the 120,000 kan. Some people are seen manipulating Jubei to ensure they pay the money at all costs. Nobuna pleads with Soikyu to help them out, because they really need Imagawa's succession if they really want to unite Japan. He tells them he doesn't have that kind of money. He adds that they could ask the other merchants to pay 3,000 or 134 kan each, but he's got a monopoly on takoyaki stands, so they don't like him, especially Tsuda Soikyu of Tenujiya. The war in Kyo is fierce, and Yoshikage's men seem to have the upper hand due to the fact that they're making use of some huge elephants that are specially designed for war. Jubei comes to report to Nobuna about her meeting with Konoe, which did not go well. Nobuna tells her to go back to work, but she insists on staying to assist them. Nobuna then asks if she has any ideas on how they can make the money, and she replies that if they burn down Sakai and chase off all the merchants, they will be able to get enough money. Nobuna silences her and tells her Sakai is their gateway to the world where everybody can meet and be happy. Besides, the Japan she's working towards is one where everybody is free like never before, so destroying it is out of the topic. Later, Nobuna, Soikyu, Yoshi, and Jubei meet with Konoe to negotiate their request. Nobuna tells them that since she's going to be the one to unite Japan, they should see it as a future investment, but Konoe's mind is fixed already. The leader suggests that Soikyu sells them his monopoly on takoyaki stands for that price, but Nobuna immediately suggests that they'll sell them something for that price, but it'll be a dish prepared by none other than Yoshi himself. They agree to it, but turn it into a competition between Yoshi and Jubei, and what they're betting is a position within the Igushu. Yoshi meets with Louise later for some European cooking lessons to give him an edge. Then he gets a strange but maybe useful idea. On the battlefield, Oda's men find a way to intimidate the elephants, so they regain the upper hand, causing Yoshikage's men to retreat. It's the day of the Shokugeki, and the item on the menu is takoyaki. The battle begins, and Jubei seems like she has been taking cooking lessons directly from Yuki Hirasuma, while Yoshi just keeps trying his best, which almost gets ruined by his assistant. He then gets the idea of frying the takoyaki before adding his secret ingredient, mayonnaise. It doesn't look too presentable, but when the judges dig in, they start to get nostalgic feelings of when they were all happy little snotty-nosed brats. They're all brought to tears of joy. Jubei serves her own next, and nobody seems impressed by the mid-taste. Somehow when the result gets announced, Jubei wins and gets paid the 120,000 kan. Hanbei claims that the fact that they don't know where Matsunaga Danjo is bothers her pretty much, and Katsui adds that what upsets her more is Jubei because she is just too stubborn and serious about it. Nobuna just tells them to drop it, that she's sure Jubei didn't mean any harm. Jubei goes to apologize to Soikyu for going too far, and he tells her she should be apologizing to Yoshi instead. She tells him she doesn't understand because, in a battle for promotion, there's no point if you don't win. Soikyu tells her she's wrong, because to the princess, her retainers are like family, and she doesn't want to see them fighting each other and trying to pit each other down. Jubei replies that the only family she has is her mother, and that there is a clear difference between family and retainer. Soikyu then interrupts her there that she can only say that because she's lucky she was loved by a wise mother while growing up, unlike the princess. Surprised, Jubei asks if it wasn't just a rumor, and Soikyu confirms it to be true. Nobuna's mom was always against her in everything that she did, yet she didn't let it reflect in her relationship with others. She does her best to keep everyone from worrying. He adds that to Nobuna, she and Yoshi are her family. Jubei gets moved to tears. Report gets to Nobuna that Takeda and Uesugi, two of their opponents, have joined Ed forces, and that seems dangerous because, with the look of things, they probably came together so they can take her down. They now have an estimated 50,000 soldiers. Nobuna is about to order her to retreat immediately, but she gets stopped by Yoshi, who tells her it's probably a misunderstanding because it seems absolutely impossible for those two provinces to join forces. Turns out, they actually did. Yoshi starts to panic because everything is unfolding differently than he expects. He wonders if he could have been the one who changed the cause of history by meddling with people's deaths. He tells Nobuna not to give up yet and that they should keep advancing, but she has made up her mind against it. Yoshi keeps pestering her that a lot of people are counting on her, and that that she should not just give up on creating a new era like that. And she replies that she can't rule Japan if she abandons the people she cares about. She tells him she never expected him to be the one to tell her to abandon the people she loves. She then tells him to get out, and that she never wants to see him again as she walks away. The main Oda force turns back down the Eastern Sea Road, with Katsui and Nagahide in the lead, leaving only Imagawa and a small guard in Kyo. While Yoshi walks back, he reminisces about the things Nobuna said to him and then realizes he might have taken things too far himself. A man with a huge build suddenly shows up, and since Yoshi is a weakling, he gets kidnapped easily by the man. Yoshi wakes up bundled to a tree and asks the strange man beside him why he kidnapped him. The man tells him not to feel special, and that he was only taken as bait to lure Nobuna out and snipe her down. The man claims that he cannot allow Japan to be at peace because then there won't be jobs for people like him who love the chaotic Civil War age. Danjo's men start attacking the base at Kyo, and Jubei tries her best to defend it, but her forces are outnumbered, so they just focus on defense until reinforcements arrive. Danjo infiltrates the defense and has a deadly spa with Jubei, while Yoshi's kidnapper waits patiently for Nobuna to show up. When he sees her from a distance, he tries to snipe her, but Yoshi pulls a John Wick move by using the sound of his phone to disrupt his aim. They then knock him out and rescue Yoshi. They link up with Jubei for support, but Danjo suddenly calls out hundreds of men like she had anticipated this moment. She tells them to give up, but what do you know? Nobuna pulls a Uno reverse card and thousands of soldiers pull up to their side. Danjo then does the smart thing and surrenders. Several days later, Imagawa gets officially appointed to her new position and a new order and governing power is established. Nobuna had also taken another huge step towards conquering Japan. Lady Himiko vouches for Nobuna, in the presence of the leader of Konoe, that she wants Oda Nobuna to rule the country. Nobuna and her executives hold a discussion about the provinces that are yet to send messengers to Imagawa's new administration. Katsui suggests that they kill them all, but Yoshi brings her back to reality because they're all powerful people, and they can't be killed without proof. Nobukatsu, who is in Asia, sneaks to the women's bath. On the middle of the night and gets his cover blown as a man when he runs into Nagamasa using the bath. The bigger twist there is that Nagamasa isn't a man, but a woman. They both freak out. The 30,000 soldiers who left Kyo with Nobuna are passing through the passage the Asai clan has granted them through Umi. Yushi, on the other hand, is stuck with 3 kids, plus Nene, whom Nobhad sent to make sure he doesn't fool around with any girls. Hanbei still hasn't recovered from using her power too much during the previous fight at the Kiyomizu temple. She suddenly gets up and announces that Nobuna is in danger. She tells Yoshi that her plan wasn't to attack Wakasa, but to go east as soon as she entered Wakasa, and launch a surprise attack on Eshizen. Nagamasa's father takes back control of the clan from her, so he can attack Nobuna and her troops while they're in their land. He imprisons Nagamasa so she can't interfere with his plans too. Yoshi decides to set out to warn Nobuna, and since Hanbei can't come along, she sends Zenki to go with him. On his way through Asai, he meets Nobukatsu, who hands him a pouch to give to his sister. He meets up with Nobuna and hands her the pouch, telling her to tell her forces to retreat because she has been betrayed. She has a hard time believing it, but the contents of the pouch are convincing enough. Shortly, they get a report that the Asakura forces are approaching fast, and that they either retreat or die. Nobuna tells the others to retreat while she guards the rear, but they are all against it. Still, the only way to make it out is to order someone to guard the rear, while the rest escape, and Nobuna can't bring herself to do that because the person is going to die. Yoshi then volunteers to stay and guard the rear himself. He hands her his smartphone and tells her to stay safe. 20,000 Asakura soldiers approach from the north and 15,000 Asai soldiers from the east. Now Nobuna is on a mission to retreat with all her troops from a catastrophe like that. Yoshi, on the other hand, is the rear guard, tasked with delaying the enemy as best as he can with 500 men. After getting far enough, Nobuna reconsiders and says she has to go back. She whines about not being able to live in a world where Yoshi isn't present. They then sight a different set of soldiers, probably from Odani Castle, on their tail, and Katsui has to lead some of the troops to hold them back. Nobuna finally starts heading back home when the unexpected happens. She gets shot and falls to the ground. Under the command of Yoshi, the people on his side are able to do great damage to the enemy soldiers. It's pretty stressful, but they're doing all right. It appears that Yoshi had told them that if they make it out, they'll be rewarded with the prettiest girls in the Oda province. The men do their best to hold back the soldiers, but they start getting overpowered in a matter of time. When things start to look hopeless, they try to retreat, but are then stopped by Danjo's strong force. One who has a personal beef with Yoshi tries to stab him with a spear, but he gets shielded by one of his men who takes the hit for him. The man holds onto the spear and swears not to let it go, not even after death. He yells at Yoshi to use the opportunity to get away, which he reluctantly finally does. It has gotten to the point where Yoshi is sure he's going to die as the enemies keep pressing forward and trying to kill him. After losing his hope along with his men, Zenki comes to save his ass with that mystery ninja who let him go a few weeks earlier. Yoshi orders his men to split up so they can survive. One of Danjo's strongest men corners Yoshi to a cliff where he requests that the man kill him alone and lead his men. He agrees to it and aims his cannon at Yoshi to end him. The ninja Thun appears and says it'd be a humiliation to have one's life taken by his enemy, so he drops a bomb that explodes Yoshi's body. Jubei, who had been approaching from a distance, witnesses the incident and charges in, but also gets blown away. Katsui and Nagahide had found Nobuna on the way and brought her home. Luckily, she only survived because the bullet hit the smartphone Yoshi had handed her. The following morning, news spreads about Nobuna's current state, so the Asakura Asai force marches through Kanagasaki, 35,000 strong, and heads for Kyo. Yoshi's death is reported to the base, and the girls lose their minds. Nagahide tries to seek revenge on Hanzu, the ninja, but it's pointless, because he has most likely returned to Mikawa with Motoyasu. Nobuna meets herself in a church setting as a bride, and her groom is none other than Yoshi. While they're about to complete the ceremony, her white dress turns black and she suddenly meets herself in front of a coffin. That's when she realizes that Yoshi is dead. After accepting that fact, she finally wakes up. She then turns the pain into a rage and swears to avenge Yoshi's death and take Japan by force. On the orders of Nobuna, Oda's forces start burning down places that are meant to be off limits, even to counts like her. The people get scared and start to wonder what's going on. Meanwhile, Nobuna, fiery and decisive as ever, commands her troops to launch a full-scale attack on the mountain, disregarding the potential fallout. Her advisors, Katsui and Nagahide, intervene, reminding her of the true purpose of their campaign. It's not about personal vengeance, but about protecting the people and their future. They caution that if she chooses such a ruthless course of action, she risks alienating the very people they are fighting for, rendering their entire mission meaningless. While the siege drags on, Asakura and the other counts grow impatient with the stalemate. Seeking to taunt Nobuna and disrupt her focus, they send a package to her base under the guise of a peace offering, accompanied by a letter. When the box is opened, its contents shock everyone. A grotesque statue of a monkey's head. The accompanying letter mockingly refers to Nobuna's beloved ally, Yoshi, who had been tragically killed in an explosion. Overcome with fury, she abandons all restraint and leads a direct charge up the sacred mountain, consumed by the desire for retribution. Oda's troops invade the mountain, with her main forces striking from Sakamoto. The counts make fun of the fact that Nobuna took the bait easily. They're pretty confident that she stands no chance against them. Asakura sends his generals to capture Oda's female generals alive for him. He's been fantasizing about the harem for a while now. Nagahide and Danjo get cornered while fighting off the enemies, so Danjo begins to suggest that they set fire to the mountain since it's a fortress. She tells her that if Nobuna wants to head Japan, she needs to be capable of something like that, ignoring the fact that she could turn every priest and believer against them. Nagahide tells her she won't let her turn Nobuna into a demon. When Hanbei recovers and gets the details of everything that happened, she blames herself for failing as a tactician, but not for Yoshi's death. She blames herself for making Nobuna lose her mind. She believes Yoshi is still alive. Jubei climbs out from where she got blown and sees the space where Yoshi gets blown into. Hanzu used a technique where a real bomb is replaced with a smoke bomb, and in the smoke, the target hides in a hole dug beforehand. Asakura's generals cross paths with Nobuna and her generals, so they start clashing. Jubei, on the other hand, stumbles on Yoshi's body, so she takes him to a cave to tend to his wounds. The counts set fire to the mountain and make it look like Nobuna did it. Konoe ends up betraying all the other counts, so he can be the last one standing. Katsui manages to defeat the two generals that were sent after them, and she rushes to back Nobuna up. When Nobuna climbs the mountain, she's met with the same masked guy who almost killed Yoshi. He has been ordered to kill her. She tries her best to fight against him, but she's nowhere near his level. Minutes later, Katsu, Danjo, and Nagahide arrive and grant Nobuna the opportunity to advance to where Konoe is while they take care of the big guy. The masked guy lets her go because he doesn't believe she'd be able to take care of Konoe on her own. Getting to the top of the mountain, she asks Konoe why he did it, and he replies that the ruler of Japan should be someone who is chosen from birth and not some insignificant country girl. She talks back to him and the old man, who can't take a roast, charged at her with his old man's strength. She blocks his attacks easily and deletes him without hesitating. She then thanks Yoshi for giving her strength and apologizes for everything. Yoshi miraculously appears just when she needs him, and she gets really excited. She rushes not only to embrace him, but to hit him as well for making her worry like that. They return home as heroes and get celebrated appropriately.